Imagine waking up one morning, not with the familiar groggy haze of sleep, but with a sudden, chilling clarity. The sunlight slices through your window, just as it does every other day. It's not a loud, intrusive thought, but a quiet, seismic tremor from the very core of your being. If this is the life you've built, why does it feel like a cage you decorated? People who carry symphonies in their hearts but hum only the most familiar, repetitive tunes? Individuals with the insight of a philosopher who spend their days in conversations that skim the surface of existence? Souls with the courage of an explorer who never stray from the well-trodden path. They are not failures. They are contained. They have accepted a silent, unwritten contract, a trade-off between the turbulent, terrifying glory of their full potential and the quiet, predictable comfort of mediocrity. But what if that comfort is an illusion? And what if the safety we crave is the most profound danger of all? You trace the outline of your career, your relationships, your daily routines. Is it possible that the hell we should fear is not a place of fire and brimstone? It runs deeper than that. It is a question of spiritual and existential authenticity. But the moment in our final breaths, when we meet the person we could have become, the person who took the risks, who loved with abandon, who chased the storm of their own ambitions, instead of hiding from the rain, that specter, that magnificent stranger, looks at you with a gaze not of anger, but of profound, heartbreaking disappointment and asks, "Why? Why did you leave me in the dark?" And you see not a story of your own making, but a biography written by an unseen author. An author who traded your deepest, most vibrant possibilities for something far more manageable, something safe. This feeling is not madness. It is a terrifying secret clarity that millions feel, but no one dares to name. It is the silent epidemic of the unlived life. The scent of coffee drifts from somewhere down the hall. The world outside hums with its usual rhythm. Everything is precisely where it should be, and yet you are overcome by the terrifying sensation that you are a ghost in your own life. You look at your hands, turning them over in the light, and for a fleeting, dizzying moment they don't feel like your own. They belong to a character you've been playing for years, a character who is diligent, responsible, and predictable. A character who did everything right. But as you sit there, the silence of the room amplifying the frantic beating of your heart, a question begins to form. We are a species born of cosmic improbability, forged in stellar fire, and gifted with a consciousness that can contemplate the universe itself. Within each of us lies a potential so vast it borders on the divine. The capacity to create, to discover, to endure, to transform it is our birthright. So why, then, do we walk through our days as if we are ghosts at a banquet? Why do we stand before the infinite ocean of what we could be and choose only to dip our toes in, retreating to the safety of the shore? This is the great and terrible paradox of the human condition. We are gods in chains, and we are the ones who forge them. We build our routines like fortress walls, celebrate our comfort zones as kingdoms, and then wonder why we feel so small. Look around. The world is filled with muted masterpieces. Is it possible that the greatest tragedies are not the lives that end too soon, but the lives that are never truly lived at all? This is not a question of ambition or success as the world defines it. It's not about becoming a titan of industry or a celebrated artist. The architecture of our self-imprisonment, that invisible force you feel in the quiet moments of your life, is not a flaw in the system, it is the system. It is a ghost in our own machine, an ancient operating code running deep within the human psyche. The 19th century philosopher Søren Kierkegaard called it dread. He saw that what paralyzes us is not the fear of failure, but the dizziness of freedom. To understand it, we must become archaeologists of the soul, digging through the layers of sediment left by history's greatest minds, for they saw the blueprint of this prison long ago. Society, he argued, functions like a flock. It does not value the eagle, the lone creature that soars above the clouds. A psychological fear of our own inner darkness keeps us fragmented and weak, and a relentless social pressure to conform keeps us small and manageable. These forces work in concert, creating a self-perpetuating system of containment. It's a prison with no visible walls, guarded by our deepest fears and rewarded with social acceptance. We are not just living in this system, we are its willing participants. But recognizing the design of the cage is the first step. What we have yet to explore are the true unseen consequences of living within it, for it does not just limit our actions. It silently, methodically warps our very perception of reality itself. It values the sheep predictable, docile, and above all, harmless to the flock. The herd develops a value system that praises everything that serves its collective comfort, humility, obedience, and fitting in. It subtly pathologizes the very traits that potential requires: a towering ambition, a healthy ego, the courage to create one's own values, the will to self-overcome. Think of how we use language. Someone who is relentlessly pursuing a singular vision is often called obsessed or selfish. Someone who challenges the status quo is a troublemaker. These are the antibodies of the collective, designed to neutralize any individual who threatens to become too different, too powerful, too much. And because our need for belonging is one of the most powerful drivers of human behavior, we learn to mute ourselves. We internalize the morality of the herd, mistaking the voice of social conditioning for our own conscience. We sand down our own sharp edges, we dim our own light, believing we are practicing virtue when in fact we are committing a slow, subtle form of spiritual suicide. The great psychologist Carl Jung gave it a name: the shadow. Imagine your identity. The person you present to the world is a brightly lit room. This is your persona, the curated, acceptable, good version of you. But for this room to be lit, it must cast a shadow. Into that shadow, we banish everything we have been taught is unacceptable: our primal instincts, our unorthodox dreams, our rage, our envy, our wild, chaotic creativity. Your true potential is not just in the lit room. Much of its raw power, its untamed energy, lies dormant in that darkness. Society, from our childhood, teaches us to fear and suppress this shadow. We are told to be nice, to be consistent, to be predictable. So we spend half our psychic energy being the gatekeeper of our own inner prison, holding the shadow at bay. We feel its rattling at the bars in moments of intense emotion, or in the strange visions of our dreams. And we push it back down, terrified of what it might mean. But you cannot disown a part of yourself without becoming fragmented. The potential you seek is a union of the light and the dark, the persona and the shadow. By denying the shadow, you are living a half-life, powered by a fraction of your true energy, forever haunted by the ghost of the whole person you were meant to be. The bars of this cage are not made of iron, but of three powerful, intertwined forces: the terror of our freedom, the shadow of our perfection, and the siren song of the herd. First, we must confront the most terrifying truth, a truth so profound that we've built entire civilizations to help us ignore it. But even if we could bear this freedom, we would still have to face the enemy within. Finally, this internal struggle is amplified by a powerful external force, a pressure that the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche identified with chilling accuracy, called it herd morality. So this is the hidden architecture. An existential terror of our own freedom keeps us seeking external validation. Living within the architecture of this hidden prison does more than just limit your choices. It actively rewrites the world you see. The system is not a passive container. It is a lens that grinds itself into your perception, distorting reality so profoundly that you eventually mistake the distortion for the truth. Its consequences are not just a matter of missed opportunities. It employs an army of cognitive biases, subtle tricks of thought that create a powerful echo chamber for your small self. You are ruled by confirmation bias. Cultural conditioning provides the ultimate anesthetic for the pain of an unlived life. Our societies, our media, our entire consumer culture, they do not celebrate the messy, arduous, unpredictable journey of self-actualization. They sell a different dream entirely, a dream of passive happiness. The good life is presented as a product to be purchased, a destination to be reached through acquisition, not transformation. Buy the right car, get the right title, live in the right neighborhood, and you will arrive at contentment. This relentlessly commercialized vision of happiness has a devastating side effect. It reframes the profound tragedy of unrealized potential as simple adulthood. Your deep, gnawing sense that you are meant for more is dismissed as youthful idealism. The quiet desperation felt by millions is normalized into the collective sigh of that just life. The culture teaches you to numb the ache with distraction, to quiet the ghost of your potential with noise and consumption. It is the system's final, most brilliant trick, to convince you not only that the cage is safe, but that there is no world outside of it worth exploring, actively seeking and favoring information that confirms your perceived limitations. Your brain physically adapts to confinement. Your mind intellectually defends it. Your culture emotionally sedates you into accepting it. This is not a static prison. It is a slow, tightening spiral. The longer you stay, the more your biology, your psychology, and your society conspire to keep you there, making escape seem more impossible with each passing year. You are trapped in a conspiracy where you are the primary conspirator. So if the very fabric of your being and the world you inhabit are aligned against your escape, what then? Is freedom even possible? How do you fight an enemy that wears your face, uses your voice, and sleeps in your bed? You celebrate the stories of those who chased their dreams and failed, seeing them as cautionary tales that validate your own inaction, while dismissing the stories of success as irrelevant flukes of luck or genius. Then, normalcy bias takes hold, a deep-seated assumption that the future will be much like the past. It makes the idea of radical personal transformation seem not just improbable, but absurd. The extraordinary is filtered out as an anomaly. But perhaps the most insidious of these biases is a strange phenomenon known as the IKEA effect. Our tendency to place a far greater value on things we have built ourselves. This applies directly to the life you've constructed. You become fiercely, irrationally attached to your safe career, your predictable relationships, your comfortable routines, because you built them. The thought of dismantling this life, even if it is a source of quiet desperation, feels like a personal failure, an invalidation of your entire past. Your mind becomes a master propagandist, ensuring that every thought, every observation, every interpretation of the world reinforces one single message. It is better and safer inside the cage. They are a slow, creeping colonization of your consciousness, a neurological and psychological coup that replaces the authentic you with a more manageable imposter. And it accomplishes this through a silent, three-pronged assault. First, it wages a war on the physical structure of your brain. We now understand that the brain is not a static organ, but a dynamic, plastic landscape of neural connections, constantly reshaping itself based on our thoughts and behaviors. This neuroplasticity, the very mechanism that allows for growth, becomes a tool for our own containment. Every time you shrink from a risk, every time you choose the familiar path, every time you suppress a creative impulse, you strengthen the neural pathways of fear and conformity. The more you walk the trail of your comfort zone, the deeper that trail becomes, etched into your own biology. Meanwhile, the pathways that correspond to courage, innovation, and your unique potential are left to wither. They become overgrown, unused, and eventually inaccessible. Your brain, in its relentless pursuit of efficiency, begins to prune away the very connections that could lead you to your greater self. This is the ultimate betrayal. Your own biology begins to actively resist the person you could become. The feeling of "this is just who I am" ceases to be a psychological excuse and becomes a neurological reality. Cage is no longer an external imposition. Your brain has remodeled its own wiring to match the dimensions of your confinement. Escaping starts to feel not just scary, but physically unnatural, like trying to breathe water. Second, while your brain is physically rewiring itself, your mind is busy building an intellectual fortress to justify your imprisonment. Finally, this neurological and psychological prison is validated and normalized by the world around you. So you see the true nature of the trap. It is a self-perpetuating, three-layered defense system. You stand before the fortress of your own making. Your mind, your body, and your culture stand as its guards. This begins with a counterintuitive act of rebellion, the embrace of the smallest viable action. Your brain, as we've established, is wired to resist grand sweeping changes. You have been taught to see it as your enemy, the source of your shame. You must become a reality nomad. The prison is held in place by the feedback loops of your predictable environment, reclaiming power by befriending your darkness, and cultivating adaptability by intentionally disrupting your world. Together, they form a powerful, subversive strategy for escape. One that doesn't require a dramatic, heroic battle, but a quiet, persistent, and intelligent revolution. You are learning the practical skills of freedom. The tools are not enough to guarantee you stay free. To truly leave the prison behind forever requires one final, deeper shift in understanding, a revelation so profound it redefines the very nature of potential itself, and explains the ultimate reason why this struggle exists in the first place. To break free, you must systematically introduce small, manageable doses of chaos. This is more than just trying a new restaurant. It is the conscious practice of questioning the pillars of your reality. Have a deep conversation with someone whose political or social views you find abhorrent and listen. Read a book from a discipline you know nothing about. Travel alone to a place you've never been, with no itinerary. Intentionally do something you know you will be bad at, simply for the experience of incompetence. Each of these acts is a small tremor that weakens the foundations of your old certain world. It attacks normalcy bias at its root, teaching your brain, on a biological level, that reality is fluid, malleable, and open to reinterpretation. You are not just stepping outside your comfort zone. You are actively practicing the skill of not having one. You are training yourself to be at home in the unknown, to find stability not in your environment, but in your own adaptability. But your shadow is not your enemy. It is your buried treasure. It is a repository of your power, your passion, and your most authentic truths, all disguised as monsters. The radical shift is to stop repressing the shadow and start interrogating it. You must depathologize your own darkness. That simmering anger you feel, it is not a character flaw. It is a compass needle of pure energy, pointing directly at a value that is being violated. Your envy of another's success, it is not a sin. It is a distorted map showing you a territory your soul longs to explore. Your rebellious, nonconformist streak is not a sign of immaturity. It is the engine of your unique genius. You must learn to have a conversation with these banished parts of yourself. Ask your fear, what are you trying to protect? Ask your rage, what boundary have I allowed to be crossed? Ask your apathy, what vital story am I refusing to live? When you do this, you are no longer a fragmented being at war with yourself. You are reclaiming your exiled energies. You are turning the prisoners of your inner dungeon into your most trusted counselors. Great artists and innovators throughout history did not eliminate their difficult traits, they harnessed them. They aimed their intensity, their obsession, and their discontent like a weapon, and with it, they reshaped the world. A declaration like "I will write a novel" triggers every alarm bell. Fear, doubt, the full force of your ingrained inertia rise up to crush the idea. The warden of your mind is alerted. So you must become a saboteur. Your mission is to take actions so small, so laughably insignificant, that they fly completely under the warden's radar. Do not vow to write a novel. Vow to write one single interesting sentence today. Do not commit to mastering the guitar. Commit to learning one chord imperfectly. This is not about a lack of ambition. It is a profound strategic insight. An action this small does not provoke your fear response. It requires almost no motivation, yet it achieves something miraculous. It begins to forge a new neural pathway without a fight. It is a single, quiet footstep in the overgrown wilderness of your potential. And when you repeat it tomorrow and the day after, the path begins to form. You are not conquering your fear. You are bypassing it entirely, engaged in a stealth operation to build a new neurological home, one invisible brick at a time. Next, you must turn to the most feared part of yourself, your shadow. Finally, you must deliberately destabilize the reality that keeps you contained. These are not life hacks. They are the core practices of a new way of being. Building through tiny invisible actions. You have been given the tools. You understand the strategy. You can see the quiet, subversive path that leads out of the cage. But even with the most perfect plan, the escape is not guaranteed. For there is one last hidden lock on the door, the most subtle and powerful trick of the entire system. And to break it, you need more than a strategy. You need a revelation. It was the authentic you, the silent witness, recognizing that it had become lost in the identity of the character it was playing. The terror of freedom that Kierkegaard described. It is the character's fear of having no lines to read, while the author, your true self, has always been free to write any story it chooses. It is the call of this channel to become explorers of the abandoned places, both in the world and in ourselves. To look at the overgrown ruins of a place like River Country or Discovery Island and see not just decay, but a story, a potential that once was, and a beauty that still remains. In the same way, we must explore our own abandoned potential, the parts of ourselves we have left to fall into ruin, to walk through them, to understand them, and to reclaim them. This is a journey not of self-improvement, but of self-reclamation. To ask, every day and every moment, am I the actor, nervously waiting for my cue? Or am I the author of this entire magnificent and terrifying world? The choice has always been yours. The shadow that Jung identified, it is simply the part of the story the character was afraid to live out, the pages the author wrote that the actor refused to perform. The entire architecture of the prison, the psychological fears and social pressures, was nothing more than a drama playing out on a stage, and you, your true self, are not the actor. You are the stage itself, the context in which all of it unfolds. All this time, you have been operating under a fundamental, tragic misunderstanding. You have pictured your potential as a destination, a gleaming, perfected version of yourself waiting somewhere in the future. What is the finished sculpture, and you are the flawed, uncarved block of marble? It is the mountain peak, and you are the weary climber in the valley. This separation, this gap between the person you are and the person you believe you should be, is the very source of the prison's power. It is the engine of your anxiety, your self-judgment, and your perpetual sense of falling short. You have been trying to solve a problem, the problem of you, in order to earn the right to become this other, better person. But what if there is no gap? What if the destination does not exist? What if the climber and the mountain have always been one and the same? The tools you were given in the last section are not a means to an end. You do not need to break down the bars. You only need to awaken to the fact that you are the dreamer. The life you have lived until this moment is not a mistake. It was a necessary part of the story, a story that led you to this very point of awakening. There is nothing to fix. There is only something to realize. And once you realize it, you can never truly go back to sleep. They are not steps to get you to your potential. They are practices designed to dissolve the illusion that you are separate from it. You practice the smallest viable action not to become a writer or an artist, but to experience the pure, frictionless joy of creation, which is the native language of your ever-present potential. You befriend your shadow not to fix yourself, but to reclaim the lost parts of your story and become whole now. You become a reality nomad not to find a better reality, but to realize that you are the creator of your reality in every moment. The goal is not to become free tomorrow. It is to act from the profound, unshakable freedom that is your fundamental nature today. Here is the truth that changes everything. Your potential is not something you achieve, it is something you already are. It's not the future perfected you. It is the deep, silent, ever-present awareness that is experiencing your life right now. It is the consciousness that is listening to these words. It is the silent witness that has been there through every moment of your fear, your confusion, and your quiet desperation. It was there when you were a child, dreaming without limits. It is here now, observing the character you play, the persona you've built, the anxieties you feel. You have not been separated from your potential for a single instant of your existence. You have simply mistaken yourself for the mask when you are the silent face beneath. You have identified with the storm when you are the boundless sky in which the storm is happening. The entire struggle to reach your potential is like a wave in the ocean fighting to become water. The struggle itself is the only thing creating the illusion of separation. Suddenly, everything becomes clear. That feeling of being a ghost in your own life, this transforms the very nature of action. So the cage was a dream. Waking up is not an act of force, but an act of recognition. This is the real work now, not just for you, but for all of us.